I have an important message for a select few. That's not all of you. This is for a select few of you guys that are listening or watching this. It's for trade business owners that have been around for a while. They understand the frustrations of marketing and being in control or not being in control. Guys, it's 2021 and many of you are marketing yourselves like it's the year 2000. Off the back of a global pandemic, we've seen huge shifts in the market with people turning to service providers they know, like, and trust. There's never been a better time to establish the tools and frameworks in your business to take advantage of these things. These things that will serve you not only now, but serve the business ongoing. Over at Tradie Web Guys, we've recently launched the Elevation program. It equips businesses with the tools and the programs required to successfully market themselves. It gives you tools to re-engage with your past and present clients whilst nurturing potential clients. It creates assets in your company's name with no proprietary licenses. You own these things 100%. It gives your business a huge head start on the search engines with advanced SEO, and it collates all of the programs and all the services you need into one neat little bundle, including things like web development, website management, email marketing, SEO, Google Ads, loads of different softwares, strategy, support, and a bunch of other things. After going through this program, you'll have all the tools you need to market your business ongoing. You'll have a huge head start in your marketing, and you'll also have a CRM so you can continue to build your database whilst engaging your current customers and re-engaging those customers that you've essentially forgotten about. Marketing tools that you need, and they'll all be in your control. You don't owe anyone anything. You'll be able to dial it up and down essentially as you see fit. So why is this an important time to talk about this? Guys, it's important to know a lot about a little and a little about a lot. Meaning, you want to be in control. You want to know enough to be dangerous. I'm not trying to give you more work here. Essentially, we'll set everything up for you, teach you the basics, and then it's all yours. It's complete transparency. You'll never grow a business past a certain point without marketing. Word of mouth will only ever get you so far. We've spoken about it on the podcast a load of times. At some stage, you need to invest in these things. This is the simplest and most affordable way to do it. For more information, head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/elevation, fill in the form, and let's make 2021 the year that you took control. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations, and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form, and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Shawn, welcome back to the Site Shed podcast.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be here again.
This is episode 2 of the Confessions of a Reformed Business Coach series that we're putting together. This episode's called Mind Blown. The previous episode was Know Better, Do Better, where we covered off on a lot of the paradigms, negative paradigms that we have one way or another picked up over the years in relation to why we can't do better. Great episode. Go check it out. Any of you guys that haven't heard that one or watched that one yet. In this episode, it will tie into that. So it'll probably make a little bit more sense if you do listen to this one. I also know in this episode, there may be a bit of a visual walkthrough. So if any of you guys want to get a better understanding, and we're going to do our best, of course, to portray this in audio, so bear with us. But if you do want to get a better understanding of what we're talking about here, you may want to go and watch this. You can head across to YouTube and you can watch it there, or on the show notes, it'll be embedded as a video, or on the Facebook group, it'll also be in there. So there's plenty of places you can find it. Shawn, you are from ShawnFeurer.com, but your spelling is Feurer, so ShawnFeurer.com. You're a consultant and you're based over in the magical state of Utah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Wonderful.
sir.
You were introduced to us by Pat from a few episodes ago. Your listeners might have been familiar with him. He runs a really awesome roofing company in, where is he? Virginia, is it?
Yeah, he's in Virginia. Yes.
Yeah, nice. And you've been working with him on Mindset Coach for the last few years, from my understanding. And he said, you've got to speak to Shawn. So here we are. We're speaking.
Yes, we are.
So cool. What are we talking about in episode 2 here? Do you want to give us a bit of an overview?
Yeah. So and just obviously they've got to go watch episode 1, but to recap, we talked last episode about the paradigms, right? And the subconscious mind. And if I'm going to blow your mind with this episode, which we want to do, I got to recap on that a little bit, because at the end of it, we talked about these paradigms are programs around our subconscious mind that's controlling 95% of our daily activity, right? And I think it could be argued that our subconscious minds are the most powerful supercomputer on earth. We literally, as humans, possess a tool that is our mind that can allow us to program amazing things into it. I mean, it'll believe anything we tell it. If we tell it we're a millionaire, if we tell it we're healthy and happy, it can create whatever we want. But the interesting thing is we don't have a visual. We think in pictures as humans. We do really well with visuals, with diagrams. There's not any explanation of what, first of all, where is the mind? And second of all, what does it look like? So if you're cool with it, Matt, since you're the only one here with me live right now, I'll ask you to be my guinea pig on this. As we do,
sure.
We're gonna do some visualizations, and we're gonna kind of see how this goes. And any of you watching this, if you are driving, do not close your eyes. Right, I'm gonna ask Matt to close his eyes, and we're gonna do some visualization here. But let's start with this, Matt. So okay, we got our eyes closed. I've never been to your flat, to your house. What does your front door look like? Can you see it in your mind? Do you see a picture of your front door?
Yeah, it's a steel frame door with a glass insert, frosted glass.
Frosted glass. Okay. And does it have a handle on the left or on the right?
It's got a handle on the right, which is sort of stainless, but not polished, brushed.
Okay. So like a brushed nickel type look. Okay. Now you can see it, right? I've never seen your door. I can see it.
Right.
Okay. So that's how the brain works. I mean, I could have you describe your vehicle to me. We could take a trip to Hawaii together if neither one of us had been, but we could describe the beach and the sand. We could both see it, right? So here's the one, and we're going to have a visual. This is where the visual is going to come out. I'm going to show you for those of you that are watching the video. But Matt, right now I want you to picture your mind and tell me what your mind looks like.
At the moment, it looks like waves crashing because we've had some really good surf up here, and it's been preoccupying everything I've been doing.
Yeah, I can see.
Picture
I can see
mind.
that.
That's a tricky one.
I could. No, it is a tricky one. I mean, and I've been working with hundreds of people on this mindset stuff and process, and I've heard things like there's a million angry minions running around up there. There's a pink fleshy brain, right? Which the brain is not the mind. The brain is the processor of the mind. I've heard black space, all kinds of things. But the bottom line is, and you can open your eyes now with me, this powerful supercomputer that runs so much of our life, from our self-worth and self-love to the results we get in relationships and health and wellness, and most importantly for a lot of the tradesmen in our businesses, we don't even know what it looks like. And so if I'm going to try and solve some problems that are coming up, okay, I got a result down here I don't like, what kind of thinking, it'd be really cool to have a visual. Don't you think?
I am very familiar with this concept, and because I only as of this year basically went down a path to improve my reading, okay, because I'm on a mission this year to optimize and improve everything I do, right? And so I started early in the year with reading, and I wanted to improve because I read a lot of books, but I was a horrendously slow reader. Like I would read like I would talk, which a lot of people do. And so I did a course on speed reading, and I was able to basically take my my reading from 250 words a minute to 500 plus words a minute. So I've basically doubled it, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Now, during this process, it led me down some other avenues about memory. And because there's a lot of tricks that you can apply to speed reading, which do relate to memory. And I've got one of those memories, probably like a lot of people. Some things I have no problems remembering, and I can remember them back from when I was a little whippersnapper. Other things I can't remember what I did yesterday. Part of this,
same.
So I did another course on improving memory, and a huge amount of that was about visualization. Actually, I think I did this one first because there you go, I've forgotten already. Ironic. I did the memory course first because there was a guy on this program that I did who actually taught speed reading, and this is where I learned this concept around visualization. And it talks about how you can, it's so easy for us to forget something like a shopping list, but if you put it into perspective and you use story, which has images attached to it, it makes it a lot easier to recall what you actually need. And the example they used was the periodic table. And I was never much good at science. I was never much good at school, to be honest with you. But it's amazing this exercise they went through where they basically taught you the first 10 elements of the periodic table through visualization and using imagery. And I'll never forget it. And I've used it a number of times since. If something important that I need to remember, I'll spend the time creating like a storyboard for this thing, and I'll just never forget it ever. And it's amazing. And so I am 100% on board with what you're saying here. It's super powerful.
Cool. So and again, think back. We talked about it. Your mind blown with the paradigms that you can actually program things differently. But my mind was blown that I spent most of my life without a visual, without something like you're talking about to assist me in using my mind, which allows me to create, my imagination, my willpower, all these things that I'm doing with my mind, and I don't have a visual for it.
Right.
So, and again, I need to give credit to one of my biggest mentors. I use his material in my program. Have you heard of Bob Proctor? Have you ever listened to any of Bob Proctor's material, Matt?
I don't think, is he an author or?
He's a speaker and he's a mindset mentor. I mean, does okay. Kind of similar to what I do. I mean, did you ever see the runaway hit on the law of attraction called The Secret back in 2006?
Oh,
or her?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know if I've ever actually, because it was a book, right?
It was a book and a movie. I actually didn't read the book. I had the movie, and it's funny because I'm big into the law of attraction and even the mindset before I got into mindset coaching. But Bob Proctor's a speaker on it. A lot of people know Bob from that. He's 87 years old. He's still teaching from the stage. I mean, when I look at Bob, I'm like, I want to be that guy because he's healthy, he's wealthy, and he's got friends all over the world. But he's the one. And when I was doing this search for my clients, I'm like, I need a tool. I need something to help these contractors get out of their own way. Sure. And without giving the long, boring backstory, I ended up at 3 a.m. And I think it's because he was broadcasting to Australia. We're on quite different time zones here. But middle of the night, I made a cup of coffee and watched one of his webinars at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he shared this visual. And it's called the stickman figure. And it's just a visual for how the mind works. Mm-hmm. And again, going back, we touched on a little bit on our last episode. I want to speak on this before I go to the visual. One of the things we're programmed is that we have to know the how, or that we have to work hard, that it's outside external. And, the stickman figure and understanding the mind really gives a realization that it starts from the inside. Have you ever heard of the book, U Squared by Price Pritchard?
No.
Okay. Highly recommend it. It's a short read. I share with all my clients, but the beginning of the book, there's a story, and the author tells a story of he's sitting in a hotel up in Canada, and he's watching a life and death struggle. But the life and death struggle he's watching is a fly. And the fly is trying to get out this glass window. And he's watching the fly, and the fly is trying as hard as it can, right? It's flying, it's buzzing, it's pissed off, it's sweating, it's doing everything it can do to get through this double pane glass window. And he talks in this story that the fly is going to die trying to get out the glass window because no matter how hard he tries, he's not getting through that glass. Mm-hmm. And yet 10 feet across the room, 15 seconds of effortless flight, there's a door open and the fly can escape. Yeah. So that's the concept. As I give you a visual, is sometimes we are like the fly, especially in the trades, where we're like, we're just going to power through. I'm just going to man up. I'm just going to work harder, put in some overtime, work Saturday and Sunday, work harder. And without a proper understanding of our mind and how it affects results, that's an easy trap to get caught into.
Sure.
So let's go here to the slide for a second. And I'm going to tell you, those of you that can't see it on the screen, it's a very simple diagram, but this is the new visual that I use when I'm thinking about the mind. And for those of you that can't see it, I'm going to describe it. Matt, you hop in if I'm not doing a good job because you're looking at it. But Sure. It's basically, we've got a stickman figure. He's got a big head, a big circle head. He's got a little circle body, little stick arms and little stick legs. The big head we break into two parts. The top hemisphere, the top part of it is the conscious mind. The lower half of it is the subconscious mind. The top half of it has 5 tentacles coming off of it for our 5 senses. It's how we process information: smell, sight, touch, taste, and hearing. So when information comes to me, looking at the diagram, I'm going to use my 5 senses to process it. It's going to go through my conscious mind, my subconscious mind, down in the little circles, my body, and out comes an action and then a result. So I'm using money for this one. We could use health and fitness. We can use relationships. But let's say the result I'm getting is 70,000 a year, US dollars. That's what I'm making, right? I'm doing action, and that's the result I'm getting. And I want a different result. Where do we spend most of our time on this, Matt? Is it down here on this side of the diagram, down by the action? Or is it up in the mindset, up in the thinking?
Action.
It's action. That's how we're all programmed, right? And so for me, this whole mind blown was, it doesn't start with the action and result. It starts with the mindset. It starts with the belief. It starts with removing the self-limiting beliefs. So for this diagram, I've got the idea or information coming at me is in line with where I'm at. It's $70,000. It's what I know. My conscious mind can wrap around it. My subconscious mind, I can get those results coming out, no problem. But then I get a crazy mindset guy like Shawn Feurer on the phone, on a Zoom, and he says, no, man, you can double your income, or you can at least get to 100K, right? And so for those of you not looking at the visual, I've got 100K written on the screen. That's the new idea. My five senses may be able to get around it. My conscious mind, which only controls about 5% of my day, I'm good at what I do. I can get you excited. I can get you pumped up. I can talk you into it. But then either during this call or after this call, the paradigms are going to kick in, right? And in episode 1, we gave the assignment of writing your annual income as your monthly income, and then writing down all the reasons you couldn't do it. This is the same. This is a visual of that process. This is literally, okay, what's coming up for me? Is it control? Is it that I have to be, superhuman, do everything myself? Is it a scarcity mindset? Is it a self-worth? But all these things that are hiding in my subconscious mind are what keep most of us stuck at the old idea, the old information, whether it's 70,000 a year, whether it's weighing 220 pounds, whether it's only having a certain level of happiness and joy from relationships, whatever it is, it's stuck in this old pattern. And most of us spend our time like the fly. I'm just going to try harder. I'm just going to try harder. I'm just going to keep working. I'm going to keep working. And what I've found now after a couple of years of shifting from working harder, putting new systems in place, is let's start with a different idea. Let's start over here and let's think a bigger thought. And then as we're thinking the bigger thought, let's see what subconscious self-limiting beliefs come up, and let's start attacking those. Mm-hmm. As we start attacking those every day, we actually can get different results.
Love it.
So that's the visual for the mind blown. And I use that with every client I work with when we're trying to talk about, we don't have to know the how. We just have to have the belief that it's possible for us. And if we hold that belief every single day and we get that into our subconscious programming, we're going to start taking different actions. We're going to start attracting better things, and it's going to become easier than we thought.
So essentially, when you're making, you're coming up with this concept, this idea, and then you're changing your beliefs so that it becomes the reality. I mean, once it's a reality, it's like it's done, right? The deal's done.
It is. The deal is done, yeah. And the hard part is for most of us is making a reality in our mind before it becomes a reality in the physical, on the outside, right? Because we're programmed, like in that diagram shows, to respond to the outside results. I don't have money in my bank account. What do you mean I'm rich? What do you mean I'm abundant? I don't have, and the more I believe I'm not rich, the more I take actions in line with that panicked, scarcity mindset, where if I can create on the inside the abundance that I truly want, it doesn't matter what shows on the outside. I'm going to keep powering through.
And so alternatively, and what typically we do in that situation is, well, if I want to go from 70 grand to 100 grand a year, I need to work an extra 5 hours a week, and that will get me there. But that really doesn't change anything.
No, and that goes back. That's the fly. You're just flapping your wings.
Exactly.
Hard,
yeah.
Right? The other thing too, and I've worked with a lot of commission salespeople in the home improvement industry and in the trades. And when they're on commission, if they're programmed at 70 grand, if they hit 70 grand by June, they take vacation. They just do, without even knowing it. They really end up pretty close to that. And at the same time, if they get to October and they're only at 40 or 50. They have the best last couple months of the year, because that program is so strong. It's where we are programmed. And so using this visual, it's like just giving yourself an idea of, okay, if I want something different, it's obviously there's action. Obviously I'm gonna have to do something.
Sure.
But I'm gonna do something different. And doing something different starts with thinking different thoughts over and over and over.
I mean, I've definitely toyed with what seems in hindsight the same thing, but with a different spin when it comes to, strategy and goal setting and planning. Like essentially you got to come up with this vision and reverse engineer it into bite-sized chunks, which those chunks will inevitably involve different actions. And if they don't involve different actions, you're probably not going to get a different result.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's that Albert Einstein quote? The
Yeah.
definition of insanity, right?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over and over. And in construction, I mean, I've worked with contractors that they've been in business for 20 years, but they repeated the first year 20 times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're frustrated, they're burned out, and they don't have anything to get excited about. And that's where this mindset comes. And on the third episode, next episode, we're going to talk about how we get excited, because
Cool.
that's the best way to power through all of this, is to get something that you're really excited about to help you power through. But let's get some practical advice on this. So I've got this stick figure that we've got. I've got this idea, and I've got these things that are coming up that are going to block me from it, these self-limiting beliefs. How do I reprogram? How do I change those?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, you probably won't know. I would be surprised if you did know, but it's more of a rhetorical question, because
Well,
how do we change that?
How do we change them? I mean, first of all, we need to, I suppose, take the blinkers off as to what's our potential, of what is possible within our reach, whether you've deemed it in the past unrealistic or not. So like the example you used before, I want to make my annual income my monthly income. Okay, that's a good example.
Yeah.
And then you've got, so now you're obviously faced with a situation, and you're obviously going to strip me down here, but you're facing a situation where you're like, okay, cool. What I'm currently doing is not going to facilitate this. So I need to establish methods, practices, whatever, things that I do daily, which are going to enable me to achieve these goals, however big they are, however small they are, whatever it is. What are the different actions we need to take, put them in practice, and attack it?
Yeah. No, that is how we go at it. But a lot of times the things that come up are reasons we can't do it, honestly.
Sure. But like you said though earlier, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing, because that gives you something to improve, right?
It does. But in this one, just understanding that diagram, I got to change the subconscious mind. I got to change the programs that are running. And so affirmations, you've heard of affirmations. A lot of people have toyed with affirmations, but I think at some level, there's not a lot of credibility given to them. Like, I tried them once and they didn't work that well, right? And I don't know if that's been your experience prior to me really taking a deep dive. That was my experience. Is I'm like, I understood them. They made me feel a little better, but most of them made me feel funny. I didn't believe them, and I stopped doing them before they actually took hold, right?
That was me.
Using that diagram and just saying, okay, that's what told me back. I'm going to encourage you the power of affirmations. Like if I'm feeling scarce, I just need to say I am abundant every single day. If I'm having some confidence issues, I just need to say I am confident every day. And the reason we stop saying them and the reason we don't do it for an extended period of time is it feels uncomfortable. And the reason it feels uncomfortable is our subconscious mind doesn't believe it. Right. And the point is to say it until it believes it. It becomes comfortable and it starts running the new program for you. And
yeah, I'm with you there. I think that is the reason why most people don't do it or see it as a unicorn and rainbows sort of hoo-ha thing, because it's like really, you can go and say all these things and write these affirmations down, but then in reality, you're like, this is stupid.
But that's not you saying it's stupid. It's your subconscious programming, right?
I'm agreeing with you.
No, but and again, this is where I'm hoping, and if only one of you listening to this hits the way it hit me, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so powerful. If I say it till I believe it, I'll act differently. And if I say it till I believe it and I act differently, I'll get different results.
And you've also got to say it so that you want to believe it, right? Like,
yeah, like with some emotion and some feeling, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, look, I've been reading this out every day. I've been saying it. Okay, but you haven't believed, like you haven't really, It's like, what's that thing? You've been hearing me, but you're not listening.
Yeah, that's what exactly. So you got to change. I mean, I have one guy that I was working with on confidence. He just didn't have a lot of confidence, and I don't think he felt like he was a good-looking person. And so I had him saying things like, "I am confident. I am sexy." I even had "I'm a sexy mother effer." I mean, I put funny things in there because as you say it to yourself, your subconscious it's going to be sticky for it, right? And especially if you don't believe it. But if I get some emotion behind it, I'm taking those. And again, on the first episode, we talked about repetition of thought and emotional event. I can try and recreate that by using emotion with the affirmation. And, a lot of the work I do is based on the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I kind of forgot to mention that last week, but Napoleon talks about auto-suggestion. So it's the same thing, besides the affirmation.
I saw there's a movie coming out. Did you see that? Or out even. There might be a movie. It's out. It's coming out or it's out.
I have not. I need to
Google
check the
it.
radar for that. I would love to see it. Yeah.
It's like straight to DVD, or not DVD anymore, but like you purchase it online.
Streaming. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good. Straight to streaming.
Yeah, I've seen trailers and stuff hitting my newsfeed. So yeah, good book, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, no, Think and Grow Rich. If you really want to take this mindset, that would be the first step.
Sure.
Is to read it. I call it my Bible of success. It's my leather-bound Think and Grow Rich. Bob Proctor holds one of these up in every training he does, and so I had to get a matching one because it is. But he outlines the steps you need to take to come up with a definitive purpose, to say it every day, to auto-suggest to your subconscious, to have persistence. I mean, all the tools to change your mindset and do everything I'm talking about is in that book.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had this conversation, Bruce. I've had a couple of authors on the show, and I've started writing a book myself. And I think the opening line in my book is, to be clear, there is nothing in this book that's original or unique. And I feel like that's, so common. But also not a bad thing, like sometimes you can find some books which essentially are like a curation of awesome snippets and points that just basically bring everything together in one place for you, so that's kind of
we joke, we have a joke, we call it same information, different asshole. right? I mean it really, but I mean, this is the thing, it's truth. That's the reason the message keeps getting passed down. It's truth. And as it gets like, and I'm a big Napoleon Hill freak. I mean, if you look, he mentored W. Clement Stone, who wrote The Power of Positive Mental Attitude. He mentored Jack Canfield, The Success Principles. He mentored Bob Proctor. I mean, he's mentored all these people. So it is the same information. It's just, who do you resonate?
Sure.
If you're listening to this, you might resonate with me and want to work with me. That's awesome. Sure. You might not. You might like somebody who has a different style. But the information, the truth, and that's for me. I mean, I've listened to all different kinds of YouTube videos, podcasts, and sometimes I don't understand the processes they're talking about, but I know when it's good information. Just for me, it resonates with me. I don't know if you're the same way, Matt, where you hear it, you know it's truth for you.
I think as well, there's it resonates with the point in time that relates to where you're at. Like I've read so many books, I've gone back and read them a second time, and it's like it's a completely different book. And I'm like, how did I miss that the first time? Just because I wasn't looking for that. I didn't need an answer for that right then. I needed an answer for that now, And
yeah,
that happens all the time.
No, and it's interesting too, because, part of the work I do with my clients is that persistence, that doing something every single day. And like when the pandemic hit and we were locked down and a lot of people were frustrated, we read chapter 9, Think and Grow Rich, Persistence, every day for a month. And you hear something different, you get something different every time because your level of awareness, you're listening. I mean, as humans, we're so scattered. Like even as we're talking, you're probably hearing what, a third of what I'm saying as we're going, even though you're listening to me, because our minds are always going a bunch of different directions. And so when we find good information, I would recommend anything you do, listen to it multiple times, because you're going to garner different information. The other thing is, as you gain levels of awareness, it's like, there's a saying, you don't cross the same river twice because it's moving. As you're getting different levels of awareness, when you go back to a book, you're at a different point and you're going to hear something differently and it's going to strike you differently. Yeah. I mean, I read Think and Grow Rich for the first time 20 plus years ago. It means more to me today than it did 20 years ago when I first heard it.
Sure. But then fair to say, probably 20 years ago, you would have had an entirely different takeaways from that book that you would when you read it today, So
yeah. Well, my biggest frustration with the book 20 years ago is he talks about the damn secret, but he doesn't tell you what it is. I was like, just tell me what the secret is. What is this bullshit? Why are we playing
the ultimate cliffhanger for the sequel, and then he dies.
Yeah.
In my next book, I'm going to reveal the secret to life. So stay tuned for that one, Dad.
Have you heard his sequel or his follow-up book? Have you ever read it or heard about it?
What is it?
It's called Outwitting the Devil.
No, I haven't heard of it.
So Napoleon, and part of Think and Grow Rich, he talks about where he has conversations with people he wants to be, and some of them are dead people, right? He does meditations and tries to connect. Well, he wrote this book called Outwitting the Devil. It's a conversation he had with the devil. And his wife banned him from publishing it. She said, we will be driven out of the United States if you publish this book. So it got put in the archives.
Okay.
And in 2008, after the recession, they got permission to release it. It's a fascinating book. It basically, the devil tells him that he uses public school and church and the scatteredness of the human mind to keep us from being productive. It's a fascinating book.
Really?
Yeah.
What's Outwitting the Devil?
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down. Sounds hilarious.
No, it's funny. I was teaching a sales class, and I was professing my love for the book Think and Grow Rich, and one of my students raised his hand and said, "Have you heard his new book?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? His new book? He's been dead for how many years?" But it was released in 2008. It was a new book.
No kidding. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap this one up. We're going to come back in the third episode. We're going to talk about a better way. What's that episode going to be about? Just a bit of a cliffhanger for the viewers out there, listeners.
Yeah, it's something to get excited about. Let's just say that. Let's get excited in the next episode.
Nice. All right. Well, mate, thanks again for your time. Once again, for you guys out there that are watching or listening to this is Shawn Feurer. His website is Shawn, ShawnFeurer. That's FEURER.com. And this is the second episode of the Confessions of a Reformed Business Coach series that we're doing. That one was called Mind Blown, and we're coming back to episode 3, which is going to be A Better Way. It's easy. Stay tuned for that, listeners. Thank you, Shawn, for your time. And that is a wrap. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.